Welcome back, Sebastian here. So time for my review of the 2025 Jeddah ePrix, the first ever ePrix at this circuit. Of course, in recent years it's been in Diriyah, but for construction and a couple other reasons, the race has now moved to Jeddah. Pretty exciting race, pretty interesting tracks as well. Quite a few chicanes, a bit more than I was hoping for, but nonetheless provided some pretty exciting racing. And of course, this was the debut of Pit Boost as well. So it was an all-German front row with Gunther on pole, Verline P2, and going into that first corner, we did have some contact, and that resulted in Sam Bird spinning around and being sent to the back of the field. Don't think anyone received any kind of penalty for that, so I think just unfortunate first corner contact, and that really ruined Bird's race. Gunther keeps the lead going into those first couple corners, but a couple corners later we would have even further drama as there was contact between the two championship challengers, Verline and Evans. Evans just kind of missing his braking point, kind of carrying a little bit too much speed, goes into the back of Verline, gives Verline a puncture, and he himself had a damaged front wing, which was basically rubbing against his tire, and it was basically creating tons of smoke and stuff. And it's one of those things where if the front wing breaks off right away, it's good. You can continue, but unfortunately for Evans in this case, it just kept attached, and it kept basically creating smoke, which would eventually cause more damage and lead to puncture. Also, there's safety concerns as well, so good chance that basically FIA would have, race control would have meatball flagged him and forced him to come in anyway. But he would basically stay on track for a couple more laps. So I'm really unfortunate there for Evans. Bit of an unfortunate move there, and he was eventually given a 5-second time penalty for that move. A little bit lenient given that he basically ruined both of their races, but the fact that I think his race was also ruined was probably why it was not like a 10-second or a drive-through penalty. But that wasn't all. A couple corners later, turn 7, turn 8, Evans would make further contact with Nick DeVries, and I think that's where he actually damaged his front wing. But really scruffy first lap for Evans. Now, the final big moment from the first lap was, of course, Nico Müller going airborne at the bus stop chicane. Didn't really get a great camera angle of this. We didn't see many replays of it either, but basically I think what happened was that Müller basically clipped someone and then basically just went right over the back of that car and then ended up in the runoff area. We saw him in the pits a couple moments later without a front wing, and I would expect quite a bit of suspension damage as well. So he unfortunately retired from the race after that. Contact has not been a particularly kind first 3 races at Andretti, that's for sure. But that was basically all on the first lap, so pretty chaotic first lap, a lot of contact as well. Gunther, lap 3, 2-second lead, and I think a lot of the contact and incidents had really spread the field out as well. As the top 5 were really tightly bunched together, but John-Eric Verne, who was in 6th place, was about 5 seconds further behind. And Evans, eventually lap 6 as well, would eventually be forced to pit for a new front wing, and he ended up a lap down. So tough race for him. Norman Nato as well, another driver who was misfortune, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't really an incident, it was just a technical infraction. So unfortunately, second time in 3 races for Nato, he's had his race ruined by technical infraction, and yeah, that's basically race over for him, just the way it is with how short these Formula E races are. We get a safety car to clear the debris very quick. It was basically a lap or 2. Kind of surprised they didn't throw a full course yellow instead, but I guess they decided that they needed to have things behind the safety car. Perhaps they're putting their fingers on the scale a little bit, wanting the field to be a little bit more bunched up. Who knows? Let's see. Then we get back to some more racing, really good racing there. Gunther gets a clean restart after the safety car, and DeVries overtakes Barnard for P4 at the final hairpin. Those two would have quite a few battles today on track. DeVries then overtakes Hughes for P3 at the final chicane, so good pace in the Mahindra, a bit of a surprise. It was running quite well at Jeddah this weekend, although it has been decent this year, much better than in Season 9 or in Season 10. Lap 11, Roland overtakes Gunther at P4, P1 at the final hairpin. And then lap 13, Dennis is the first driver to take attack mode, and he sets the fastest lap right away, showing just how powerful the new attack mode is this year. Lap 15, we get our final look at our first look at pit boost, which of course is basically the recharge pit stop that Formula E has finally introduced after basically 2 years of waiting and testing and issues. Thought it went pretty smoothly today, not a ton of issues. There were some little wobbles here and there. There was at least one car who had big issues, and I'll get to that in a bit. But for the most part, it seemed to go pretty smoothly. So they both pit, and that kind of starts the pit cycle. Of course, the cars had to pit between when they were at 60% and 40% of charge. So basically, everyone was pitting within 4 to 5 laps. So again, it's not quite the 1 lap, half the field pits, second lap, half the field pits kind of situation that we're kind of worried that we would see. There is a bit of a spread of like 4 to 5 seconds, which is kind of similar to what you would see in F1 for drivers who are like on the same tire strategy. So again, didn't look too artificial. I think it was, pretty good balance there. De Vries jumps Gunther in the pits. Barnard then overtakes De Vries as well at turn 4. Hughes gets ahead of De Vries as well. Lap 18, Rowland keeps the lead after pitting, and Gunther was one of the big losers in the pit stops. He dropped from 2nd all the way to 8th, but he was one of the only drivers in the front of the field who did not take attack mode before the pit. So a lot of the drivers were taking attack mode before, getting a lot of speed and pace, and then he decided not to, and decided instead to take it tactically afterwards, and that actually helped quite a bit, as we would later see. Now, Dan Ticktum was unfortunately the driver who I kind of alluded to earlier. When he came in for his pit stop, basically the team mechanics didn't work on the car. They let it sit there for a bit, and then basically started charging. Didn't really see anything suggesting he had any kind of penalty or anything, so it seems like it was some kind of technical issue. Haven't found out yet what that is, but hopefully it's not something that will continue to persist into future races. Even if it's one driver every 22 who has a failed pit stop, that's not really what we want to see. We want it to be basically close to 100% as possible. So De Vries gets past Hughes at the penultimate chicane. Pretty much all drivers having done their pit stop at this point. Lap 21, Gunther with that attack mode right after his pit stop making moves up the field, and he moves up to 4th. So despite the fact that he loses 6 positions during the pit stops, in F1 that would basically ruin your race. In Formula E, overtaking is pretty easy, much easier than F1. So, and with the help of attack mode, he was able to move his way back up into 4th. Lap 22, Gunther overtakes Hughes at the bus stop chicane for P3. Lap 23, Mortara, really excellent overtake around the outside of DaCosta on turn 7 for P6. So good move there by the Mahindra. Lap 25, Barnard then overtakes Hughes at the final chicane. I believe that was for P4. Lap 26, final attack modes being deployed at this point. Rowland's, been out front for ever since the pit stops, a couple seconds buffer to the fighters behind, and he looks at this point like a pretty comfortable win for Rowland. De Vries then overtakes, Barnard. Barnard overtakes, Gunther overtakes De Vries at turn 8 for P2. So Gunther, moving his way up into the podium positions and then up into the runner-up spot. Rowland takes his final attack mode. Lap 28, Gunther up to the back of Rowland, and with more energy, a couple more percentage points of energy over Rowland. Really, really good position, but Rowland did have a little bit more attack mode left, so it was really an interesting battle to see which one would prove to be more beneficial in the end. I think at this point, only 3 laps left in the race and only a second between them. So very, very close on track. And this is where things kind of took an interesting turn. There was a message that came up that both Rowland and Verline were under investigation for some issue with their pit stop. And with a lot of these technical infringement types investigations, usually it's pretty slam dunk. Where anything gets flagged, it's almost a certain penalty of some kind. Now, luckily, this is 4 to 5 hours after the race has already taken place, and as of yet, nothing's changed. Rowland's still in his final finishing position So I'm presume there's no penalty, and which is good. I don't want the results to be decided, but yeah, it seems like that investigation didn't go very far. Lap 29, second last lap of the couple, third from last lap of the race, and we got a really nice overtake for the final podium position. Barnard overtaking De Vries for P3 at the turn for hairpin. So Barnard just sent it up the inside, kind of spooked De Vries a bit there. De Vries basically had to really get out of it, out of his turning point to make sure he didn't make contact with Barnard. So perhaps a little bit aggressive there, but that's what we like to see in Formula E. Final lap of the race, Gunther unable to get past Roland for the first couple overtaking spots. Turn 1, not able to get past there, not able to get past at the bus stop. But very, very final chicane, Roland was basically on 0.2, 0.3%, really having to do a lot of lifting and coasting to make sure he didn't get disqualified. And Gunther decides to put on a last gasp move into that final chicane. Tries to go around the outside, Roland leaves him plenty of space, and then basically just powers through him as Roland's forced to lift and coast. So really, really solid move there by Gunther. Takes the lead of the race on the final lap, on the final corner. Great kind of stuff that we like to see in Formula E. So great race by Roland, and he would eventually, Roland and Gunther, I should say. Gunther, of course, really, really excellent that final overtake to take the lead, and eventually would go on to win. So taking a look at your final result for the first race of the 2024 Jeddah ePrix, Gunther takes the win, obviously joined by Roland and Barnard on the podium. That's Barnard's second podium in 3 races. Quite an excellent rookie season, I must say. 4th De Vries, 5th Hughes, 6th Burns, 7th Mortara, 8th Bird, 9th Acosta, 10th Van Dorn, 11th Cassidy. Cassidy still without any points this season. Championship challenge looks not over, but he's already 40 plus points behind the championship leader. So that's going to be a massive uphill hill to climb with only 13 races left. Let's see, 12th Wemmy, 13th Fines, 14th Beckman, 15th Verline, 16th Maloney, 17th Nato, again one of the drivers with drive-through penalty for the technical infringement. 18th kicked him again. Really, really slow pit stop. Not sure what happened there, and that basically wrecked his race. He was on the lower end of the point, so could have gone a couple points if he had without that issue. So a bit unlucky for him. 19th was Evans, of course, a lap down. 2 DNFs, Dennis and Muller both Andretti's. Not sure what happened to Dennis. He was running on the fringes of the points. We didn't really see anything, and he just kind of showed up in the pit lane at the end. And I actually didn't know he DNF'd until I looked at the final results on the website. So not sure what happened there. Likely some kind of technical issue. And then Lucas Degrassi disqualified from the race. I'm assuming some kind of technical issue there. But yeah, not a great start to the season for Lola Yamaha Apt with their new powertrains. So finishing up, taking a look at your championship standings from race 1. Of course, these will all change again tomorrow with our second race of our double header. So Roland leads 43 points. DaCosta now slips back to second, 39. Gunther third, 37. Barnard fourth with 30. 5th Evans with 25. Still no points after winning the opening race of the season. 6th De Vries with 24. 7th Verline with 21. 8th Vern on 20. 9th Bird on 16. 10th Mortara on 16 as well. 11th Dennis on 13. Hughes in 12th on 11. 13th Van Dorn on 8. 14th Buemi on 6. 15th Tictum on 4. 16th Muller on 2. 17th Cassidy. 18th Fines. 19th Maloney, 20th Nato, 21st Beckman, and 22nd Degrassi, all on 0 points. So there's your championship standings. Roland, very, very strong start to the season. Could have arguably won all 3 of these races. Of course, first race had that technical infraction that sent him to the back, won the second race, and then comes second here. So very, very strong start to the season for him and Nissan. Porsche, again, a bit of a disappointing race today. Of course, Verline got taken out, and then DaCosta, a bit of a weak qualifying, did make up some progress through the field. Let's see who else. Jaguar, absolutely abysmal race, really bad qualifying for Cassidy. Evans, of course, contact twice on the first lap. And then what else? The Envisions were basically nowhere like they were most of last year as well. So really rough race for the Nissan powered cars. Porsche powered as well, also a rough race. But yeah, really strong race for the Nissan powered cars and for the DS Stellantis cars as well. I guess Mahindra also deserves honorable mention. Double points finish for them and almost getting a podium. So race 2 tomorrow will be really interesting to see how the pecking order changes. Are Stellantis, Nissan kind of the teams to beat, or do Jaguar and Porsche come back and make things a bit more competitive, take a bit back, a bit more control in the championship fight tomorrow? We shall see. So thank you so much for watching. That's all for my review of the race 1 of the 2025 Jeddah ePrix, and goodbye.